Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thanks for spending some of your time with us tonight. What's going on, guys?
Let's talk some sports, baby.
This is
A Drink of Wisdom.
Let's move on to college basketball, where more cancellations have been set. The NCAA has canceled the March Madness tournament officially, and it will not be played this year. The decision was hot on the heels of cancellations of conference tournaments through the day on Wednesday. There were some attempts to still have the big dance, including a condensed 16-team version, but ultimately the logistics were too much and teams were basically refusing to travel. All collegiate spring sporting events are also canceled, and the NCAA is planning on giving most winter/spring sports another year of eligibility. So, Jay, did the NCAA get this right, or would you like to have seen them take a different approach?
Well, I'm not, obviously I'm not totally read in on all the discussions that went into the equation in this level of decision making, but I'm a little bit split on this. When we just talked about the NBA and how they suspended play. I would have liked to see the NCAA take a similar approach, especially with the college basketball and the NCAA tournament, because that's such a huge event. You think about the effect that just has on just common individuals with the filling out of brackets and the gambling that goes into all that, and just the overall drama of that tournament and some of the Cinderella stories that we witness from time to time. And you also think about some of those lesser known players that we get to see on the big stage. I mean, here's one thing that maybe we're not considering from just last year's tournament. Does Ja Morant get drafted number 2 overall if the whole country doesn't see what he did last year in the NCAA tournament? I mean, that's just one of the things.
I mean, I would say throughout the season he was still considered top 3, but I get what you're saying. He locked in at number 2 because of the NCAA tournament.
And right, you would think his tape throughout the year, you could make that case, but I mean, in the conference he was playing in, there would be that question of, well, you didn't do it against, the ACCs of the world or the Big East, or the list goes on and on. So that that's just one of the things I'm looking at. But I would have preferred the NCAA to take a similar approach that the NBA took. But I do understand there's a lot of things they're probably working and have to consider more than the NBA. You think about the NBA, it's just, it's centralized. You got the league office, you got 30 teams, and, that's pretty much it. The NCAA, it has, we got the major conferences, then you got all the mid-majors. You also got to consider, the school year, because these are student athletes, or so we think. And so you got to consider things like final exams. I know one of the concerns that maybe went into this was, well, if we push everything back, it's gonna, there's gonna be a conflict with the exams. That's just one example, and so maybe that's one of the things that went into it. But still, I mean, I think Jay Williams was one of the guys who was talking about, man, you know what, May Madness, that still has a pretty nice ring to it. So, but we didn't go that way. But it was just, I think a lot of people after Rudy Gobert got his test back, it seemed like, and I know the NCAA, they take a lot of criticism for their exploitive tendencies and how the student athletes, they don't get paid and they get a raw deal, and that those points were brought up in the media the very next morning on Thursday, because at the time it wasn't until about middle of the day that the individual conferences, at least the major ones, came out and shut down their tournaments about one after the other. So there was a whole lot of, negative vibe aimed at the NCAA. And I thought, and to a degree, I thought it was a bit unfair, because if you remember, before Rudy Gobert's test came back, the NCAA, in my mind, was really among the first in the athletics world that came out and said, hey, the tournament will continue, but we're not going to have fans, or we're going to have limited fans, just, close family. And so when the NBA made their move, it seemed like everyone was quick to say, oh, yeah, the NBA, taking the lead and leadership and all this. Well, if an NBA player didn't test positive, I don't believe the NBA would have been the first to make that move. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it could have been a baseball player in spring training. It could have been. I mean, if the NCAA had a college athlete that tested positive, they wouldn't have had no choice but to shut it down. So it was only a matter of time, in my estimation, that a test was going to come back positive, and that's when we would see actual action take place. And that's ultimately. So I believe the NCAA in that regard, they get a raw deal, but it was. You definitely would have liked to see a little bit more coordination between the NCAA and the conferences. Now, to my knowledge, the NCAA, they don't have direct control of the conferences. The conferences could have, they were it seemed like they was operating independent. And that there was a conference call on, I believe, 11 in the morning on Thursday, where everybody got together, and probably a lot of this was sorted out. And that's probably after that, the decisions slowly started coming down the pipe. The Big Ten was one of the first conferences to shut it down. Then we saw the SEC. The ACC tournament, just about 15 minutes before Florida State and Clemson was set to get underway, they shut it down. Then you see the Big 12. For some reason, the Pac-12 want to lag behind. I don't know what they were doing. When you think about the areas of the United States that at this moment in time have it the worst, I'm pretty sure Washington State, they struggling up there. That's you, Washington State, Pac-12. Hello, get it together. Ain't like we trying to watch it anyway. Y'all barely made the show 2 days ago. Oh, wow. So, and I got to be honest, I feel bad for the Big East. I really do. These guys was chapped. I forget the Big East exists every single season until basketball season, because they ain't got football no more, and they held on for as long as they could. They got St. John's and Creighton out there. I didn't shut off every other station because everything else has been canceled. So I'm watching St. John's and Creighton for a half, and then, a couple minutes past, 1 o'clock, they say, yep, well, we're out too, guys. So, obviously a tough day. And then you saw later that afternoon, you saw schools like Duke and Kansas, blue bloods, top seeds, traditional powerhouses saying, yeah, we're done. We ain't playing. Yeah. Y'all want to? Yeah, y'all have a tournament, we won't be there. So that probably had a big effect. And once we saw those type of things come out, it was inevitable that the NCAA probably made this move. So, I would have liked to see them handle it differently. But, in the end, it was probably bound to happen eventually. So I'm not going to be one to hammer them too much.
Well, I'm going to be honest, man. No matter how the NCAA would have handled this, it would have made someone mad. It would have frustrated somebody. Probably. Probably. Let's say they would have said, "All right, let's stick with just playing the games with no fans." Okay. Well, let me tell you what the conferences was doing wrong from the start when they made the distinguish of, no fans, but you can have family. Well, I'm looking in the crowd, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell difference is it between a family member and a fan?
Yep.
I got to know. Like how? Oh, so if I was blood brothers with a star player, right? But I don't even like my brother because, we was raised different and whatever. But I just so happen to be a fan of college basketball. So now I get to go up here and say, hey, man, that's my brother playing. You know what I'm saying? And my mom now, she's like, yeah, that's my son. That's my son. That's my brother. Yeah, that's the evil one. That's the good one. Whatever, however you want to look at it, right? So they let me in. I'm not a family member. I'm basically a fan. So I looked at stuff like that, and I'm like, that don't make sense. So that was one instance where I'm like, that decision didn't really qualify as a good decision, I didn't think. Or let's just say they would have continued the tournament with nobody, just strictly no fans, no family, just the players and the essential personnel, pretty much. They would have did that. Well, let's say, okay, the minute one player would have got sick from that exact game, oh, the NCAA, what we doing, Big East? What we doing, ACC? Oh, man, you should have just canceled the games, man, but y'all just wanted to be greedy. Y'all wanted all the money, so y'all just played the game anyway and didn't even care about the health of these kids. So I just look at it like, listen, the NCAA, the individual conferences, however, they was not going to get this right no matter what they did. So they went with the safest possible outcome, which was let's just cancel everything. Because when you got a team like Kansas, which was projected to be the #1 overall seed, and they say, yeah, let's pack our bags, we out. Then you got a blue blood like Duke. You know how many people have showed up to see Duke play? Let's pack our bags, we out. At some point, you kind of gotta like start following these trends, because when your biggest money draws are just leaving because they're scared of the safety precautions, what are you really gonna do? You gonna bank on Dayton? You gonna bank on Creighton? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? So I thought personally the NCAA got it right, because at the end of the day we can get upset and we can say, oh man, they robbed us, they took March Madness from us. And I understand these seniors, man. It's two elements to this, right? You got the human element, then you got the business element. I got it. The business element, it got pretty a crash course. You're losing a lot of money. It's a product that you've been building on year after year after year. Just like you said earlier, it's a big gambling product. Like, I think behind the Super Bowl is the second most highest gambling product it is in the United States. But at the end of the day, the human element took over. You gotta care about these kids enough to say, listen, we're gonna lose a lot of money, but we'll rather you be healthy, we'd rather you be safe than just to go ahead and go for the money grab. So that's what the NCAA did, and I don't think they made the wrong decision. And listen, for those seniors, that your last opportunity was either in a locker room or you played one half a ball and that was it. It's life. That's how the cookie crumble. If I to be honest with you, I'm gonna be real with you. Life gonna throw you some stuff like this when you get to the next level. You get to the NBA, it's not gonna be glitz and glamour. It's gonna be stuff that happens like this. So I can say the NCAA is giving you a life lesson. Some stuff ain't gonna pan out the way you think it is. It sucks. It's unfair, but it is what it is. That's life.
Hey, and just a couple quick points before Cody jumps in here. Duke and Kansas. Yeah, I get it. You're really trailblazing it out there for us. That's a pretty easy decision to come out and make after the conference tournaments go ahead and close up shop. So in that sense, you can see the writing on the wall. Hey, yeah. For all we know, good old Mark could have called down to Duke and said, "Hey, Coach K, could you help us out? Pull the plug on you guys coming out there." Yeah. Did I call Bill? No, I didn't call Bill. We got him under investigation for everything under the sun. I ain't calling him. Forget about that. But hey, and you know something else? Back to the family thing. That first half of that Creighton St. John's game, I was looking at that, and I really thought that the people in the stands would have been further back than right behind the benches of the players.
Exactly.
You got the whole arena. Nobody's in there. Why can't you, have it like taped off with the first 4 or 5 rows and everybody sit back there? That way you can't have contact with the players. I just thought that was pretty odd.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is another one that's, again, and I'll look at it a little bit different, same token, but I think part of this too is these big, NCAA, NBA organizations, you can't just be the one that doesn't. Like, if everyone else does it, you got to fall in line, right? Like, because if you're the one that stays open and then everyone starts getting it from what you were doing, they can trace it back. You're talking all kinds of legality problems, lawsuits. I mean, it might not be, oh, we're so worried about your health. It may also be, well, we like money, and here's the pile of money we could have from having the tournament, and there's the pile of money we'll lose if we don't cancel it, and then you all get sick. So It could have been that too. We don't really know, but either way, like the perception just can't be, oh, well, we're fine, we're not worried about it, and when everyone else is, So it's just, again, it's that chain reaction event from one to the other. And man, this would have been a wild tournament. I mean, this would have been completely insane because it was such a weird year in college basketball. So many blue bloods are struggling, and then everyone else we don't normally see in the top ranks were going in, and teams are flying in and out, man. But yeah, it's one of it. And again, when one of these teams like Kansas or Duke start saying, "Hey, we're out," it's not legitimate anymore. I mean, imagine if they would have went out and then somehow we still had it or something. Then you would have had, Creighton wins the NCAA championship because half the teams didn't show up, and it's like, are we ever really going to consider them an actual champion?
No, it would have been illegitimate. It would have been, you know what it would have been? It would have been that 1999 season when the Spurs beat the Knicks in the NBA Finals, and everybody's like, yo, you played a third of a season. You played a half of the season. Like, oh, man, it's bull crap. But they still the 1999 NBA Final champ. So
we know this ain't legit. The Knicks are in the finals. This can't be right. Something's wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, you know them suckers in favor of a shortened season.
Mm-hmm.